DSA National Political Committee is behaving anti-democratically right now. They removed a one-member, one-vote poll on endorsing AOC because the DSA left knew that it would be resoundingly popular. They kicked it to convention, which is like the DSA Electoral College in 2027, which is insanely late. That's pretty funny. So, I mean, the DSA left, from my understanding, is and always has been pretty insufferable, for the same reasons that, like, non-electoral leftists on Twitter typically have a bad understanding of the system that they're meant to be, like, playing off of here. Are they... At our convention last year, we voted to pursue a presidential campaign with the Left-Labor Coalition and attached that as a poll that's supposed to go out to the whole membership. The NPC voted not to send out the poll to everyone. Not entirely true, the previous comment. DSA's National Political Committee voted out an all-member poll and presidential endorsement, routing the decision through chapter deliberation, potentially delaying it to the... Isn't this literally how the CIA is, like, tries to destroy left organizing by pitching everything to committee? Isn't this, like, literally the blueprint? Like, textbook? Just everything has to be deliberated, everything has to be debated. Never just get through something or directly decide on it. Everything has to be, like, masturbated over. That was a very inaccurate portrait. The DSA left is hostile to AOC, but instead of a national poll, they're kicking it to chapter polls that might disenfranchise less active members, but the decision to endorse or wait for the convention hasn't been decided. Can't we just do, like, one member, one vote? Head of NYC DSA is pissed. What? Over this? This is a different thing. Oh, no, wait, that's a different link. Sorry. DSA's national leadership, the NPC, just voted to overturn our convention, took away rank and file's member to vote at an all-member poll and presidential endorsement. The NPC is taking our members' rights away, while the NYC DSA members send them $2 million per year in dues. Man. Organizing, huh? Woo! Drama. I mean, it's pretty important. The DSA is literally, like, right now, the light of American democracy. They do touch on this in Disco Elysium. That is true. Gustavo's lying. Good to see the dramas taking place here in my chat as well. The co-authors of the resolution containing a national poll say there was no requirement to do it. Okay. So what's the problem with one member, one vote? Exactly. The right wants an all-member poll online. The left wants a bigger debate in the question. There isn't a serious opposition to endorsing AOC. Why involve the debate? None other than it would disempower ultra-leftists. Yeah, who want to go up on stage and ramble, because that's all they fucking do. They just want to talk and have people listen to them. The whole point of being... like left DSA is forcing people to listen to you and then being ignored. That's the whole point. Why not just put it to a damn vote and move on? Is that their fetish, being listened to and then ignored? I mean, that's the fetish of every leftist. It's just, like, to varying extents, you know? These guys are the leftists. I consider myself a leftist, but, like, holy shit, they hold up the debates. My contention with one member, one vote is that it makes deliberation extremely low quality. These sorts of important decisions should be made in moderated spaces where everyone's forced to be respectful and reasonable instead of Hitler.com. But, like, hold on. Moderated forums aren't respectful and reasonable at all. They're masturbatory. The idea that, like, imposing an you're doing, like, the Dem argument. The idea that, like, imposing an environment of civility on the discussion improves the quality of the discourse. I disagree. I think that democracy is messy and you have to, like, hit people with a stick, you know? I know a lot of, like, DSA left people seem, like, morally opposed to the project of politics. Like, convincing people, vote whipping, you know? It's circle jerky. It's like, what's wrong with vote whipping? Isn't that the point? Isn't that democracy? It's supposed to be a democracy. I mean, they're mostly vanguardists and tankies. Well, they're also ultras, so... What's the difference between left and right DSA? Left DSA is more broadly anti-electoral, and right DSA thinks that God Empress AOC can lead us to the promised land. That's a bit of a mistake. It's a bit of a mischaracterization. That's an extreme mischaracterization. But I'm saying it anyway. Like, this is exactly what I mean. Look at this. No one's reading this shit. I'm not reading it. Good lord. Vosh embodying the illiteracy right now? No. I disagree with this for the same reason I disagree with forcing people to say yes to EULAs, right? Like terms and service agreements or whatever. I think that you should make arguments for or against the thing, and then you should vote on it. The problem is that if technocratic organizations are allowed to turn like this, everything turns into like Discord moderator stewardship, where like popular issues get reduced into the discourse between the most online people imaginable who have nothing better to do with their time than argue. Like, stuff that would otherwise be settled very quickly and efficiently ends up getting relegated to nonstop discourse between people who have no lives and who genuinely just want to waste everyone's time because they want their tiny little micro niche arguments to be heard because it validates them. They're the same type of people who email me and they send me like 80-page manifestos and they're like, "Hey Vosh, I developed like a new theory of politics. Can you read this and let me know what you think?" You're describing democracy? No, I'm describing the death of democracy. Democracy is a public project. What I'm describing right now is a masturbatory like internet forum argument between a subset of the population that enjoys arguing more than they enjoy outcomes. That's not democracy. Having to keep up with this on top of your DSA working group and local chapter obligations and everything else going on in your life is unfortunately a burden that comes with being a member, because if you don't show up or weigh in on the national level stuff, you see the territory, which is why making everything overly complicated is anti-democratic, because it forces out the people who might have good opinions but who don't have the fucking time to spend 80 hours every week, like, following the incredibly niche, microscopic details of the discourse, you know? Like, this isn't politics, as far as I'm concerned. The fucked up thing is a lot of this shit's probably true. It just doesn't matter. It is complicated. No one's making it overly complicated. You really don't think anyone involved here from the DSA left is making things overly complicated? There's a concern AOC might not uphold the DSA program. Yeah, but shouldn't that be settled in the vote? As a full-time worker, it feels like some of my DSA comrades are unemployed and have a lot more time to focus on this stuff than I. Yeah, and that's bad. That eventually leads to the org being like disproportionately controlled by the biggest no-lifers. This like destroys political causes. In conclusion, asynchronous voting is not democracy. It is a hollowed-out imitation in the tradition of the bourgeois liberal democracy, a system that cannot verify voters, does not foster deliberation, empowers the well-connected over the many, produces symbolic accountability, fails to develop organizers, and they have look at this, man. This is over arguing whether they should hold a vote. Do you have any idea how many people you alienate just by framing your arguments this way? They're jerking off as they write this. They type this one-handed. I think it's better to move quickly and be right like 90% of the time than it is to hold everything up, be right 100% of the time, but it doesn't matter because you never actually made a decision anyway. Sorry, these are probably good people. It's just like I've experienced so many people like this, and it's genuinely exhausting. DSA's NPC votes against all member polling, raising the question, what does democracy look like? I remember organizing with these types of people, great folks, but never doing that again. On Sunday, the DSA's leading body, the National Political Committee, voted against a proposal to send out a non-binding all-member poll. Like, why vote against a non-binding poll? Is it really that bad? Is it really that bad to at least collect the data on what people want? To gauge whether the organization's membership supports pursuing a national endorsement in the upcoming presidential election. It really feels like the only reason you would prevent a non-binding poll from being sent out is if you want to ignore the reality that most people in the DSA are in favor of supporting AOC. Like, they don't want to expose the fact that their position is unpopular. So instead, everything has to go through like a year of deliberation before we eventually reach the same conclusion anyway. A question that in practice revolves around endorsing the insurgent Democratic Congresswoman, DSA member, and 2028 hopeful AOC. Instead, the MPC approved a proposal centered on chapter-level voting that will require additional deliberation before an organizational decision's made. DSA staff member Michael Grichowski remarked that they have, quote, never seen this many members registered for an NPC meeting to observe Sunday's meeting, a measure of how central the endorsement question is to organization's political life. Ultimately, the result was a vote to postpone the question, potentially until the August 2027 convention, really, more than a year out. Oh yeah, no, we'll send out a non-binding member poll on whether or not people are interested in supporting AOC. Let's do it after AOC could potentially start a race. Jesus Christ. Many critics have noted such delay could cost precious time to mobilize mass energy around AOC's anticipated presidential run, and that the organization must be prepared ahead of time to endorse her as soon as her campaign formally begins. The poll would likely lead to a strong majority for AOC, which may be exactly why certain elements in the NPC who are opposed to endorsing her also oppose the poll. So this is literally anti-democratic. You all realize that, right? The refusal to solicit people's opinions in a non-binding poll means you don't want to hear. It's like how the Democratic Party didn't do polling on whether or not people's positions on Gaza kept them from voting for Kamala Harris. They understand that the public opinion will make them look really bad, so they don't even want to solicit the public opinion. This is the makeup of the NPC, by the way. The left DSA is dominant, which explains why they don't want to allow members to vote. Yep. The committee is made up of 27 members, and half the slots are reserved for women. How progressive. They probably resent the fact that the organization's been flooded with a bunch of right DSA. We're going to end up with a Vanguard Party situation again. What would your opinion on this be? An endorsement of AOC? I don't even like AOC, but blocking a non-binding poll until 2027 is psychotic. It's anti-democratic. It does nothing but foster resentment and hold up the organization, and disenfranchise the vast majority of the people in the party, because the left DSA just doesn't want to be reminded that they have a glut of new right DSA members who came in following their success with Mamdani. Like, obviously, people who join DSA after Mamdani's election are going to be largely right DSA because they just saw an example of political participation in the electoral process being hugely effective. They did not block a poll. They blocked a poll being sent by email. Instead, the poll will be administered by chapters. Why? It's non-binding. They're just soliciting opinions. Also, they're potentially blocking it till after an August 2027 convention discussion. That's blocking the poll. Unless I'm misunderstanding this, are you saying that, like, it's known that they would send out the poll within like a couple of weeks or months or something? Like, what if it's potentially delayed until August 2027? It seems like that discussion is just not going to be had in time. What could have been an opportunity to involve mass membership and take a proactive, prepared approach to what could have been the most important race in DSA's history, instead resulted in widespread membership frustration with the organization's ability to adequately meet the 2028 moment. No, the convention will be for endorsement. The polls will happen beforehand. They want to make the decision to endorse at convention. Well, that might be too late. August 2027 is going to be after campaigning kicks off, for one. And for two, like, when will the poll be sent out then? Historically, presidential candidates have declared their candidacy at the beginning of the year prior to the election. This means that if AOC were to declare her candidacy in January or February of 2027 and DSA were to wait until the convention, there would be at least 6 months between the commencement of her campaign and DSA's formal involvement. Such a gap may result in the introduction of opportunistic political actors to guide the affairs of her campaign in less than desirable directions from the perspective of organized socialism, isolating DSA from political moment. It's obviously a strategic mistake to wait until August 2027 for the endorsement. If they endorse, which they probably will. You think DSA endorses AOC over Ro Khanna? Yeah, I mean, AOC is like a member, or at least heavily associated. This will also slow down any endorsement outside of her too. Like, I do not think there's any real reason for blocking the non-binding poll except ignoring the writing on the wall that the right DSA is the overwhelming majority in this case. Caucuses like Bread and Roses also voted with the left because, unfortunately, the right-wing caucuses are just as obnoxious as the left. They went crazy over this vote. But what's wrong with just having the vote? Like, what's the argument against the vote? Okay, sorry. I know we just ignored a bunch of arguments against the vote, but I think that the format with which these arguments have been presented is evidence to the point that the vote should be held. I think this is a kind of tedious, like, death by deliberation style approach to internal politics that proves the point that the only real reason you would want to block the poll is because you want your intellectual masturbation to take political priority and get social accolades over the reality that most of the people in the DSA would support the endorsement of AOC. Spiritually Israeli. Okay, hold on. A reminder of how the DSA right is being shitheads? What do you mean? The DSA right? AOC got a higher percentage of the vote in her primary than this year's DSA endorsement vote. How is this the DSA right being shitheads? Over 1,000 DSA members have signed on to tell the NPC they want a voice in how and who DSA endorses for president in 2028. I'm not a DSA member, but I co-sign. So do the DSA right see AOC as a god empress? Listen, we're not talking about her endorsement right now. We're talking about an internal poll that would be used to see how many people inside the DSA support AOC. It's non-binding. It's not an endorsement. The only reason, like, polling data is really, really, really important for longitudinal reasons, if nothing else. You want to see if people's opinions change over time. Like, it might be useful information if right now, like, 85% of DSA supports her, but like 6 months from now, 75% supports. That's important information. It's a non-binding poll. It should be held. I don't care if it's held over email asynchronously. Like, that does not, it's anyone who's a member of the DSA, as far as I'm concerned, is qualified to share their opinion here. Like, this is exactly what I mean, okay? So I'm going to assume a left DSA member right here who's saying that the reason they don't want to hold that poll is because they don't like AOC. It's fine to not like AOC. I don't like AOC, but blocking the fucking non-binding poll is not how you do that. Like, you're not arguing against the endorsement of AOC. If you were just arguing that, you would simply vote no on the poll that gets sent out. You're trying to argue nobody else should get to say what their opinion is. This is DNC shit. It's the same. It's how you subvert a democratic movement by subjecting it to the whims of an insular technocratic elite who think they know better. It's Vanguard shit. But a lot of these people like Vanguard shit. The claim that asynchronous voting is more democratic or more representative fails under scrutiny. In practice, asynchronous voting empowers those with access to resources at the expense of those without. Under asynchronous voting, the number of online voters could be 2 or 3 times the number of meeting attendees. This is literally self-contradictory. The idea that asynchronous voting allows more people to participate is the opposite of arguing that asynchronous voting benefits the people with more resources. Winning requires aggressive vote whipping by political insiders, text calls, and messages reaching isolated members. This is as opposed to a fucking year-and-a-half postponed Democratic forum where only the people who show up and deliberate get their voices heard. They're literally against vote whipping. They're just against democracy. How they think this is a good argument? This is what I mean. If I hone in on one point and this one point is insane, I'm not going to take the whole document seriously. Intellectual masturbation. The idea that it is more populist to not hold a non-binding poll, but delay a year and a half and subject everyone to hours and hours and hours of in-person deliberation, and this somehow involves more people and is more democratic than just letting people do a non-binding poll? Ridiculous. As Francis R. puts it in The Call, fuck off. They're afraid of right DSA vote whipping. Dog, the right DSA wouldn't even have to whip votes. They're already in the majority. On this issue, people will support AOC. That is where the numbers are going to go. The reason they're holding is because they know they're going to lose. The biggest red flag for me is that any one of these positions, when they signal they feel they know what's best for people in the org better than the people do, it's all over shit like this. The dripping, arrogant contempt of somebody who thinks that they're smarter than the people who disagree with them. Now look, there's nothing wrong with thinking you're smarter than people who you disagree with. I think that all the time. But if you're trying to hold up a non-binding poll, hold up just a show of support, oh, no. You're not ready to tell the world how you feel about this issue. We need to wait a year and a half to like really make our case. No. Vote whipping? That's anti-democratic. Yeah, no, you can feel the contempt, which is counter to the interests of this organization. Milo 808, watch me add. Watch me double it. Double it, give it to the next guy. Double it, give it to the same guy. The polls are still happening? Okay, but like, what? Chapter local? Why not a national poll? It would be a national race. AOC would be a national candidate if she ran for president. Why not just do an email poll? It's just chapter polls that won't take till 2027. Yeah, but they're still holding it up. Why chapter polling? Why not just do a national poll? Trying to claim election security issues, literally GOP argument. Is email voting secure? It's fine. I don't get it. Is your critique of AOC that she's too young? Can you elaborate? What? You watch my streams often enough that you know perfectly well what I dislike about her. Quit trying to bait my attention. The org doesn't seem to believe in centralization. If the org is serious about potentially committing its resources to supporting a presidential run, it will need to be centralized. It will need to run as a national organization. We can't do this chapter leadership bullshit when we're talking about supporting a presidential candidate. This is actually so retarded, it's making me reconsider want to join support the DSA. Then you're being retarded. The idea that, like, you see the most promising democratic political organization in America and you see some infighting and you're like, well, steering clear of that, I'm going to just do nothing then, when you could join it and be part of the good half of the movement. Come on. The loser mentality. Sorry, not to be like mean or whatever. It's just that sentiment really pisses me off. Ro Khanna or AOC, who's your pick? Ro Khanna. But if the DSA throws their weight behind AOC, we'll see how it goes in the primaries and I might support her. I would certainly vote for AOC if she ended up being the general pick against whatever, JD Vance. AOC is definitely to the left of Ro Khanna. I just feel like Ro Khanna, A, would probably have a better shot, maybe, and B, I feel like Ro Khanna has more balls. Ro Khanna has bigger stones. You should join it where they crucify you. I like the DSA. I advocate for people to join it, but my joining it would literally just cause infighting. Like literally, a ton of the people in the DSA hate me. I do not think my joining would be good for the DSA. It would cause problems, which is unfortunate. Just joined DSA, went to a new member orientation this past weekend. Nice, yeah. It's a real, like, group. It's a real organization. It really runs. I mean, you could just join privately and pay dues. I'm a public figure. I would not, I'm not only am I a public figure, my name, not my real name, my online handle, is probably known to a significant number of people in the DSA. There wouldn't really be a point to me joining if I'm just, pitching $5 a month or something. Like, I would be found out. It would be like, there's no like being a quiet member, you know? They'd call me out. There'd be people arguing to have my expulsion put on genuinely, there would be like initiatives. Waste a lot of people's time. Don't mention me if you join the DSA. Well, all right. I guess I'm with the right DSA on this. I'm usually with the right DSA for the most part. Not even because I like AOC. I don't like AOC. Just, you have to do something. It's like when you're in a group and nobody can decide what restaurant to go to. It's better to go to a restaurant that's kind of mid than for nobody to ever go to a restaurant because everyone was just stuck deliberating forever. Forward motion is always good. You know, you want to always be moving forward and refine the angle, you know? Refine the angle of your movement. You don't want to stop and deliberate forever. I don't know, Connor. If your membership card got lost, you should fucking email them, for sure. Framing it as right versus left DSA feels like it poisons the well, and which position is better as a leftist. I agree. I feel like the left versus right DSA was obviously made up by the left DSA. Like, it's technically true, but obviously, semantically, people are going to frame the right within the DSA as the bad ones because the DSA is a leftist organization. It would probably be better to say electoral versus non-electoral DSA, but even that's a simplification. Of course, right and left DSA are simplifications too, so it's not like you're, obscuring meaning if you do that. Not left, not right, but forward. Exactly.